Hi, everybody. Back to tonight's special. Welcome aboard. I appreciate you being here. The New York Times is shifting its coverage from Russia to racism. The paper spent 2 years as one of the chief pushers of the false Russian collusion conspiracy theory. It has completely fallen apart. The paper recently held a crisis town hall meeting of its own staff, where the paper's executive editor said the paper is transitioning from suggesting Trump is a spy, because that was fake, to suggesting that he's a racist, which, of course, is also fake. Larry O'Connor is a radio show host, and a fabulous one at that. He joins us now. Larry, the news over the last 2.5 years, since the election has been extraordinary. It's been remarkable and fabulous to be an American. But then we see remarkable and important American institutions like the New York Times devolve into kind of a Keystone Cop comic book. Can you give us your thoughts on the impact of this and what this really means, what we're facing here?
It's a great point. And, the fact, remember after the election, the New York Times apologized. Mr. Sulzberger, their publisher, apologized to their readers saying, we got it wrong. Obviously something happened in the 2016 election that we weren't following the voters and the sentiment, and we underestimated it. And they promised they were going to really get down and just cover the news as it's fit to print, because that's the New York Times legacy. And sadly, it's not. Frankly, that's not the true legacy of the New York Times. They've always been an organ of the left. They've been this way for decades, and they slipped right back into this pattern. And it's more than just getting this story wrong. Mr. Beckett, the executive editor in this meeting, according to the transcript,
let me stop you there, because if some of the audience may not know, there is an audio tape of this crisis town hall that was leaked. So we're not just guessing at an attitude of what these people said. As an example, let's bring up one of the part of what he was saying at this meeting to his staff at the New York Times. We built our newsroom to cover one story, and we did it truly well. Now we have to regroup and shift resources and emphasis to a take on a different story. Larry, this is not news gathering. You have to usually wait for the news. This is a propaganda planning meeting to decide already what it is they're going to say and how they're going to say it. How can we describe it any differently?
It's an astounding admission. I thought a newsroom was supposed to be built around, covering the news.
Yeah, it's weird.
That should be the priority. But no, they decided at the New York Times that they were going to build their newsroom around covering one story, the Russian collusion conspiracy hoax, which was a hoax, and by the way, manufactured by propagandists from Moscow to sow disinformation here in America. It was paid for by Hillary Clinton. Thanks a lot.
But we also know what the new message is going to be, and everyone can just know what the next 2 years of the New York Times is going to be. Let's bring this up, this kind of a final statement from them about what now the plan needs to be. The chief there pushing the Trump racism theme. Race in the next year, and I think this is, to be frank, what I would hope you come away from this discussion with. Race in the next year is going to be a huge part of the American story. Now, this, remember, is a meeting, and the context is how they're going to shape the narrative, and that's what they've already decided.
Yeah, and Tammy, the two stories, the Russian conspiracy collusion hoax and this racism story, they have one common denominator, and that is it's going to pit Americans against each other. It is going to divide us for the first half of the Trump presidency with this shadow hanging over from before he was even inaugurated.
It's horrible.
It painted the picture of a president as a puppet of a foreign government, and those of us who support him as stooges of Vladimir Putin. That divided us, and now this will divide us along racial terms. The New York Times is working against this country.
Larry, thank you very much. And another horrible thing is the destruction of the New York Times itself. How dare they? Larry, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thanks, Tammy. Thank you.